Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn, Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. Think about the most disruptive, turbulent business condition you can imagine, particularly the last 2 or 3 years, beginning with a pandemic, of course, but think about all the things that have been happening and are happening right now, from uncertainty, supply side issues, of course, the war. We think of that as a backdrop. Some people are arguing that the economy is heading towards a recession. Other people say, not really, it's not really working out that way, but inflation is still an issue and somewhat disruptive. But then think about business models and disintermediation, how some companies are going directly to the customer and bypassing a reseller or a retailer. This is all disruption. Now, I want you to think about what would be a great symbol for all this turbulence, all this disruption, as I said before. What have you been going through? And don't be literal about it. Think about it symbolically. I'm going to come right back to you on that. I know you can think of some way to say, it's like blah, 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 whatever it is, fill in the blanks. We're going to talk about that in the first half of this show. I'm Lynn Hinderaker with WowBiz Nebraska. Thank you so much for watching. We've got a lot of shows on the web these days, and of course on the Cox system. We're so pleased to have you here. But before I go any further, I want to cut right to the bottom line. I believe we've discovered or uncovered something that is so basic, so powerful. I've got to share it with you, and it impacts the entire state. 2 statistics. Now, there's a lot of statistics around out there. We've learned about them. A lot of them aren't particularly favorable. They're a little troublesome insofar as Nebraska and its competitiveness, although some are strong and even getting stronger. But here are the 2 stats that are the most important statistics for this state going forward right now. The first statistic is this, and by the way, this came out of Fast Company magazine in late 2019. So it's a few years old, but it's not one of those things that changes easily. 91% of all young workers said that they want to work for, they prefer to work for a company that is highly innovative, extremely innovative. Just think about that. That's an incredible statistic. It really is a massive number. So you would think if you would be owning a company, you'd be thinking, we want to attract these people. Maybe we should be, more innovative, new products, new services, new technology, something new. I don't know. So that's the first statistic. But think about the second statistic that's coming up right now. And I learned this number from Hank Robinson, who was a researcher at the time for Metropolitan Community College. And he had all kinds of measurements and stats. He conducted research all over the state, talked to people about whether things are good or bad and so on. A lot of numbers that were unbelievable. But this one right here, as it relates to the first statistic I just shared with you, he said that after the research all rolls out, that Nebraska, when it comes to innovation, is number 46. 46. So 91% of all workers, and we're all looking for youth to try to come to work for our company and get excited about our company and help us produce great products and so on. 91% of them want to work for a company that's innovative, and yet Nebraska is near the very bottom when it comes to innovation. I mean, this is an amazing dichotomy. And by the way, there are a lot of people out there saying, well, a lot of good things have happened lately. People are doing cool things, and they are. There are some neat things that have been in the media lately that are happening here in the state of Nebraska. But as a general rule, now we're talking about 45,000 businesses, across the state of Nebraska. So as a general rule, they are not innovating. They're inheriting a business from their parents in some cases. They're operating the business just the same way as it was operated 10, 20, 30 years ago. And they're maybe making some money, maybe they aren't. You'd be surprised at the number of companies that are not making a profit or a less than 10% less than 10% profit. And by the way, if somebody said, hey, I really want to increase profitability, I really want the company to be more profitable, what can we do? You know, it's a pretty easy question to answer. And so just let me roll them off and I'll summarize this quickly. And then we'll get back to the disruption thing I mentioned before. The very first thing that most companies that want to generate some action will do, right, is that they will cut prices. They'll just come out and say, hey, everybody, we've cut these prices in half, da-da-da-da-da. Unfortunately, that tactic cuts profitability in half. So profitability is not so great when you go down that road. Now, there's other things. You say, well, we've partnered up. We have an alliance with another company, and they get us in this market and this segment and so on. Fine, that's a little bit better. That's a little more profitable. Another company will say, well, you know, I'm going to enhance the quality of our product. We're going to really kind of make a big deal about it and add some new ingredients or whatever, and we're going to have a higher quality product. And so that will take us towards the profitability goals that we're looking for. And there are, in fact, there's some evidence that that does work over time. But the number one thing that generates incremental profits, new profits, right, is innovation. Probably new products and services in particular, but there's a lot of other ways that you can innovate. Innovation is the number one profit generator, and instead of the things I've just mentioned to you. Now that's very basic, that's a really short version, but I have to tell you, these two stats, young people want innovation, Nebraska does not have a history of innovation, and we have to understand that innovation, in fact, can be the path to profitability, which is the number one thing that business owners in the state of Nebraska say they want. So there you go. We've opened a big door. I mean, this is a big door. There's a lot of things you can say about it. We got to have people, we got to do things, and location, and geography, and the internet, and online this, and tech, and all that stuff. But the bottom line is, if we cannot innovate and publicize it on shows like this and elsewhere, then the people that we need to be here that move into these cities, take over, and Beatrice, Wayne, Fairbury, Crete, Nebraska City, all these places need population. They need leaders. They need smart young people, and they will not be going there until we close the gap. Okay, I probably made that. I've been a little heavy-handed about that, but I have to say, I mean, this is a big deal, long-term deal. So I hope all of the mayors out there and economic developers and chamber people are listening to this particular show right now. Now, let's go back to disruption and turbulence and so on. I'm going to talk to you about a story. We're going to go metaphoric right now, go symbols. We talk about disruption. Back in 1989, I was talking on the phone in downtown San Francisco. I was trying to convince a Taco Bell franchisee that they should do the value menu, even though initially it looked like it wouldn't be profitable. We're having a big discussion about it. And then all of a sudden I look up and my bookcase is leaning away from the wall, and my books, I had lots of them, tumbling down onto the floor of my office. I couldn't believe it. My receptionist out in front of the office screamed, "Lynn, we're in an earthquake," and ran into my office and dove underneath my desk. So by this time I kind of figured out that I need to do something other than crawl under the desk myself, I guess. But I ran out the front door of the office, ran out onto the street, because we were indeed kind of near Jackson Square, kind of downtown San Francisco. By the way, the bay, the Oakland Bay, was not that far away, maybe 2 blocks away at this point. And I took off running through a beautiful park, a 2-block park that I walk through every day. And by the way, sometimes when I walk through about 6:30 or 7 in the morning, there'd be all these young people, elderly people doing Tai Chi right on the slopes of this park. It was so beautiful, so incredible. And I ran and I ran and I ran. I got to the edge of the park and I thought, oh, this is going to be bad because I smell gas everywhere and fire and all this other stuff. And I thought, this is not going to be good because we lived in a big condo, my wife and I thought, well, certainly the condo's fallen. She's probably laying under a bunch of concrete, dead. You know, this is what I'm thinking about as I'm running. People are screaming everywhere. There's fires. All kinds of little retail businesses have kind of collapsed slightly, and gas in the air. We could smell that. So I got to the end of the block, and I looked up at this condominium where we lived, or this apartment building, and all 25 stories, it was right there. It was intact. Well, I just yell and scream and so on, try to find my wife. While I was looking for her, I heard over here, the bay now was very close. We were very close to the water. And then further out was the Embarcadero Freeway, which has 2 levels of highways. And there were cars on the top level of the Embarcadero Freeway, and the freeway had collapsed, oh my God, and collapsed on people in the lower level. And they were screaming and yelling, please help us. And I mean, there's a lot of water, maybe 100 yards, 150 yards out there. And these cars and these people, these sad people during this incredible earthquake in 1989. Amazing. Well, anyway, so I found my wife, thank goodness. And I asked her, why hasn't this toppled? I don't understand why everything else is, up or down rather, but this is up. She said, I overheard that engineers years ago, decades ago, they'd come up with a system so that anything that's particularly tall had to have, how do I say it, rollers underneath the foundation, right underneath the basement, big, massive rollers, so that when the ground moved this way, and it did indeed move back and forth this way, that the whole building would adjust and remain standing. Is that an amazing engineering thing? Unbelievable, right? Incredible and wonderful, of course. So the question that I have to ask you and everybody in the audience, and you should ask your own family and your team as well, we'll talk about this a little more after the break, which is, what are your rollers, right? Psychologically, symbolically, what are the buffers that you have inside of you, right? That when adversity overtakes you and and when an earthquake is going on in your life, could be a divorce, could be a job loss, could be no money, could be a lot of terrible things. But you've got to know what your rollers are, what your buffers are, what will help you keep standing. It's a symbolic question, obviously, but a very powerful question. A lot of people have never even thought about this. And that incident opened the doors, in my mind, to some very interesting thinking, some deep thoughts about my existence, the purpose, my destiny, why I was here, what it was I was supposed to be doing. It's all that kind of heavy stuff as I keep looking at this incredible building that has not fallen over. And maybe that's me. Maybe that's you, I don't know. But we certainly can discuss and think about what it is that is the core of our structure as human beings. It's a fascinating idea, and makes for a great presentation, by the way. Okay, well, again, I'm Lynn Hinderaker at WowBiz Nebraska, and we want to thank our sponsors for this particular show. They've been very good. We brought them on recently. The name of the company is Trust TV. Trust TV. Obviously, we're in the media here. We're going to leverage that a little bit, but Trust TV is very interesting. A lot of people, business owners, especially small business owners, feel, if they're honest with you, by the way, that they're being overlooked. They're being, marginalized. They're not getting invited to the party. They're not being given the chance to pitch the business, so to speak, or submit a bid, or whatever it is in that particular industry. They're doing okay, they have some cash flow and so on, but they could do so much better if people, the right people, actually knew who they were. And most importantly, I have to say, the heart and soul, right? Who you really are. Why are you in this business? Why are you in this place right now? What is there about your history, your life, and so on that brings you to this? Why do you love doing it, right? Why do you love doing it? So these are questions that are asked in an interview format, right? 8-minute interviews with business owners all over the community, all over eastern Nebraska. And when they reveal what they really care about and why they believe their company is so interesting and it's not just another mundane thing, that they have a wow factor, and people don't know about it, see, people need to know. So That's what Trust TV is an 8-minute video. And by the way, it's an audio podcast as well. So you can listen to it on a podcast platform or you can watch it on YouTube, either one. But the bottom line is Trust TV is a new way, affordable by the way, a new way for people, companies to kind of get out there, be heard, and be understood. Their values, what they really believe in every day, what gets them out of bed insofar as running this particular company. That's right. You know, Trust TV is something that addresses a key issue in our society today, right? A lot of us distrust the media. We distrust big companies. Somebody knocks on our door, we kind of distrust them. We're becoming more and more cynical, polarized, skeptical, aloof. All that is going on. So we're addressing a social need and a cultural need, not just a local marketing business need. Look up Trust TV and maybe take advantage of it yourself if you wish. There you go, Trust TV right here. You heard about it on WowBiz Nebraska. Yeah, all right, thank you. You know, thanks for coming over here. We talked about earthquakes a few minutes earlier, and it's a fascinating, riveting topic, really, because when you run through an earthquake, and you have people around you, and people smoke and fire, and you're wondering to yourself, you know, how do I operate my business going forward? Is this going to change everything, right? So one of the things that we've already talked about a little bit is, you know, how do you stay? What beliefs or money or friends, you know, somebody somehow is going to have to help prop you up when adversity knocks on your door. In the San Francisco earthquake situation, obviously those were rollers or buffers, but it could be many different things. And I encourage you to think deeply about that. But there's another incident that occurred. I'm going to share this with you. I think it's also relevant as a business person, particularly as a salesperson. Many people find this interesting. Now, as the earthquake ramped up and there were tremors and so on, my wife was up on the 16th floor. It was 25 floors. And she ran down to the elevator, of course. And of course, the elevator didn't work at all, and that was out of the picture. So she had to go to the stairwell in this very tall, building. Now, the stairwell, all the lights were gone there as well. So getting from the 16th floor down and outside of the building in an extremely dark stairwell, kind of a tough thing to think about and to do. But she had no choice, so she grabbed the side railing and she began slowly stepping down, but going as quickly as she could, of course. And she went down several floors, I think it was maybe 3 different levels, and she began to hear a baby crying, screaming, of course. And as she went further, she got louder and louder. She finally arrived at a level there between maybe it was the 14th and 13th floor, whatever it was, and there was a young woman, and she had her baby in her arms, and she had positioned herself in the corner of the stairwell. It was the most protective thing she could do under the circumstances. She was scared to death, of course. She thought the entire building was going to topple on her and her baby right off the bat. So my wife kind of said, you know, I can't see you over there. Come over here a little bit. Let me grab you, you know, and hold on to my hand, and we'll go down together. We'll make it through this together. That was her message to this young lady. And the young lady was, of course, thrilled that somebody would help her out in this way. Well, anyway, so they went down one by one, step at a time, hanging on to each other, clinging to each other in the absolutely darkness you can't believe. Well, they went down very slowly, again and again. The baby's crying, of course. It was a very emotional situation, but just keep on going, she told this young lady. And they got down, believe it or not, all the way to the bottom level, I think it was the basement level, whatever it was. But there was a door there. They couldn't find the door. They had to kind of reach around, touch all the walls. You know, they couldn't find where they were even at. Meanwhile, the baby's crying, screaming. But they finally stumbled across the door and the handle, kind of the thing that you have to push on the door. And so she's holding on to my wife. My wife gets over, I found it, you know. And she pushes the door open. and the most beautiful, intense sunlight came right into the bottom, right through that door. And they walked through the door, and it was one of the most incredible moments, certainly in my wife's life. The lady cried, of course, and thank you so much, et cetera, et cetera. But you know, as I think about this, the descent down to the bottom is very symbolic as well. It says this is how salespeople, in this postmodern era that we are in right now, this is how salespeople need to handle and think about their prospects, right? Now, the prospects are frightened. They don't scream and yell, you know, and they don't have a baby with them. But believe me, they are emotional. They don't want to make the wrong mistake. So just touching them, very symbolic to connect with them and, you know, realize I'm a human being, you're a human being. Maybe we can do something together from a business point of view. Okay. And so here we go. And as we walk down the steps, trust increases incrementally for every little step that as it goes down. It's just an amazing thing. So think about a salesperson that says, look, here's the deal. What problem do you have? Well, we have issues with workforce. We can't seem to recruit people. I think I might have an idea about that. Boom, boom, boom. Couple steps down the condominium, the apartment building, right? And then what have you done up to this point? Well, we've tried this and we've tried that. Again, these are all symbolic, the back and forth between the customer and the salesperson, or the prospect and the salesperson. And again, we're taking steps down a very dark stairwell, so you don't really know where you're going. This is the problem in salesmanship today. You never really know until the very end, when the door is open, what it is that we're doing together. What's the dance? What's the interaction? How many times are you going to ask me to purchase? Are you going to submit a proposal? Is this going to be logic driven, or is this going to be emotional? What about your testimonials? Do you have endorsements? Again, we're walking down the steps all the way to the bottom level of this incredible building and this very dark stairwell. I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from on this. This number of steps that go into the sales cycle is incredible. There's another symbol or metaphor that I've used off and on. I did at the Chamber of Commerce a while back. And that is likening sales to the tango, to a dance. Very dramatic dance with a lot of movement and a lot of synchronization and so on and so forth. I know it sounds crazy, but I brought actual dancers from a club into a business environment. We had it all psyched up. We had tango music, loud music. They did it suddenly, so we kind of positioned it as an interruption in my little presentation, and they came in, and now they're moving, and it's really was fascinating. People had lights go on. Engineers sent me a note and said, I never really understood what marketing and sales really was. I didn't care about it. But when you brought those two people in there, and then you were kind of moderating and you being humorous, and you were throwing out, well, now she wants a proposal. She likes the proposal. She's spinning. All kinds of cool stuff. Yes, all kinds of cool stuff. The dance, the tango in particular, it even represented heart and soul and kind of emotion, and I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to make a gesture. I'm going to make a gesture like this, Oh, man. People were eating it up, right? So once again, why are metaphors and symbols, as we've been discussing, so powerful? And why aren't they being used more often? Symbols and let me back up and answer this question quickly. When you say, well, we have this great product, it's really wonderful, you should think about buying it, the left brain of the recipient, the prospect, is right away, whether they like it or not, is criticized. Well, he didn't say that right. I think he's exaggerating. I can't really trust him. He's not on track there. This is what's going on in the left hemisphere of your brain. But in the right hemisphere of the brain, when you use these symbols and metaphors, whether it's going down a stairwell or dancing the tango or whatever it is, it bypasses all that criticism. It kind of eludes it, and all of a sudden the prospect is looking at your sales proposition, your value proposition, in a different way, right? They're going, I kind of get that. I understand. There is a rhythm. There is a pacing. There is a time when I feel like I'm being led down a black stairwell, and I have to trust this person or possibly have a very bad thing happen inside the stairwell. So anyway, this is a very interesting thing, and if you haven't developed your presentation, you haven't developed a sales pitch, your sales department is just kind of kicking it the same way as it usually has been, the marketing department isn't doing enough, think about symbols, think about metaphors, think about what happens in the right hemisphere of your brain. That's how you get it done in this day and age, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Indeed, I've been working with you on camera. Let your friends and neighbors know, if they're in the world of business, that there are secrets and insights right here to be gained, to be used. This is actionable information. We're not just chatting philosophically here. We want you to grow both financially and emotionally, by the way, intellectually, as a result of watching us right here on WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. You can check out my firm at newbraska.com. That's newbraska.com. Thank you so much for watching. We'll look forward to talking to you again. More actionable insight. Thanks so very much.